What's up, all my people? So I am here in the garage about to hop on the Streetfighter. Still kind of going through the break-in procedure, so I've only put about 320 miles on it so far, but I need to get something like 620 miles on it before I can get that first service done, get it out, really open it up, rev it up to its 14.5 red line, and even maybe take it to the track in the coming weeks. Obviously I got a couple mods planned for it. Parts have started to trickle in, so you should see a few videos of me putting those first round of mods on the bike. But today what I wanted to do is actually talk to you guys about break-in procedures for bikes. I thought I'm taking the bike out for a ride anyway, just kind of exploring down here around San Diego just to put some miles on it. And I know there's a lot of controversy about exactly how you should break in a brand new bike. So I'm going to go through what Ducati recommends. I'm going to go through what, a lot of the word on the street is as far as what you really have to do for the break-in procedure. And I'm going to give you my opinion. So come along with me for this ride. I got my GoPro set up on the bike and in my helmet so I can talk to you guys while I ride, and I'll give you my 2 cents on the topic. Let's go. All right, so Matt and I, he just picked up a Husky 701. We're about to head down to Onyx Moto north of San Diego. Just wanted to check out some other bikes, just kind of for fun. Matt's still kind of learning, so this is going to be his opportunity to put some miles in on the new bike and get it closer to break-in while I'm breaking in the Streetfighter. So nothing too crazy, just a quick little jaunt down the coast. Make sure he's still behind me. He's definitely not quite up to speed yet, but give him a few months. We'll be doing track days together. So anyway, let's talk about breaking these things in. What does Ducati say? I think we all kind of know what Ducati says, right? I'll put up on the screen here a screenshot of the manual, the page where it actually talks about the break-in procedure, or the run-in procedure as they call it. Basically, they don't want you to go over 6,000 RPM for the first 621 miles, which is equivalent to 1,000 kilometers. That's why it's seemingly such a random number in miles, but 6,000 RPM, just to give you an idea. That would mean right now I'm even like approaching the break-in RPM. This motor redline's at 14.5, so keeping it to 6,000 for the first 621 miles is quite the chore. So Matt forgot to do his helmet strap, so now I'm waiting for him. But yeah, dude, the first 600 miles, I can't believe it. To keep it under 6,000 RPM, seemingly impossible. Now the reasoning behind keeping it at such a low RPM, at the factory when the bike was being manufactured and assembled, I'm sure they run the engine in a little bit on an engine dyno just to be sure that everything checks out. Probably run it up to rev line a couple times even, just to make sure that the thing doesn't blow up before they assemble it into a bike. But the idea is that as you're breaking in the engine, especially at the very beginning, because the interior of the engine block has been machined, there are actually fine little particles of metal and everything that make their way into the engine oil. And so the idea of keeping it under 6,000 RPM is you really don't want to be cycling the engine at high RPM with all of that additional metal and stuff sloshing around inside the oil, which would be scoring the cylinder walls, potentially doing damage to your piston rings, etc., etc. So that's kind of the reasoning for telling you to keep the RPM low. Now, interestingly, you get a lot of people that are on the complete opposite side of that argument. You get people who have basically, they'll go online onto a forum, Facebook, whatever. They'll be like, oh, for the past 40 years, every single new motor I've gotten, I've taken to the track on day one and just thrashed the hell out of it. And they say that they've never had a single issue. And a lot of people are actually convinced that running in the engine really, really hard actually seats the rings better, potentially makes the engine make more power. So, what do I believe? I guess I'm somewhat in between. I think that keeping it under 6,000 RPM, they're probably shortchanging you a little bit. I don't think that that's entirely necessary. They probably tell you to keep it under 6,000 RPM because they assume if they tell you that, you'll keep it under 10,000 RPM and you just won't take it all the way up to red line. You won't beat the hell out of it. But honestly, with the electronics on the bike nowadays, if they wanted to stop you from revving it above 6,000 RPM, they could very easily put in like a software rev limiter until you got to that 620 mile service. But they don't. They allow you to ride the bike like you stole it from day one, so clearly it's not a do or die kind of thing. Leave a comment down below. What do you think? Whenever you get a bike fresh from the factory, what do? Do you run it all the way up to redline from day one, or do you adhere strictly to the 6,000 RPM limits imposed by the manufacturer? Definitely a topic for a lot of debate, and I know a lot of people have very different opinions on it. I, for one, I'm going to be keeping it under 8,000 RPM, especially as I ride around town. I'm going to try to put different loads on it, not just ride it at a steady state on the freeway for long periods of time, but try to take back roads, places where I'm accelerating, decelerating, gunning it a little bit, but not revving it too high, just to put the engine through a lot of different scenarios to allow it to kind of break in a varied manner rather than a steady state manner. And I think that's probably the best thing you can do for the engine. Not necessarily just to avoid revving it up high, but just make sure that you put it through a variety of different loading scenarios for the first 600 miles before you change that oil. I've got a lot more videos coming, a lot of mods on the way. Potentially taking this thing to the track within the next couple weeks. I found a couple track days nearby, and a couple buddies of mine who work for track day organizations have told me about one coming up at Buttonwillow, one coming up at Auto Club, so see if we can make that work. I would love to get the run-in done by then, get the oil change done, get some of the early mods on, and then take it out to the track to show you guys what this thing's capable of. I've been pretty disappointed in the number of reviews that are out there with these on track so far. Obviously it's not a bike that's entirely intended for the track, but I still think it's perfectly capable. It's obviously incredibly fast. Would put most track-focused bikes to shame on track. Yeah, the wind will probably be a little ridiculous. I might leave the day with a sore neck, but I think it'll be worth it. So, stay tuned. Keep watching the videos. It would mean so much to me if you guys could like and subscribe. You know, just leaving a comment, hitting that like button is a huge help to the channel, a huge help to this video, so please go ahead and do that, and stay tuned for lots more content coming up. See you guys in the next one. Look at that doggo.